Well, hello everyone and welcome to Adam's Fishing, and really bizarre circumstances we find ourselves in at the moment. I feel like I should have kind of rehearsed this intro, but I haven't. I've just sort of sat down and started talking. I haven't uploaded a video for a couple of months now, and you guys know very well why that is. It's because of the coronavirus and the huge impact that's had on everyone, and has had on all of our fishing. What a gutter not being able to get out on the lake. It feels more important than ever that we should be able to get out and do these things that keep us sane, but at the same time we all know the reasons why. The best thing that we can do is stay home and protect the NHS and save lives, as the slogan goes, and you know, totally behind that. So yeah, I've been staying at home. I've actually been toying with the idea of building a fish pond down the end of the garden and maybe filling it with some little carp and doing some micro fishing in there. I think that'd be really cool, especially if this kind of thing, this kind of lockdown, is likely to go on for a long time, or, you know, worse still, it sort of die off and then come back again and again and again. I mean, who knows? I read the news, and a lot of it's quite conflicting and quite confusing, so I don't think anybody really knows what the future holds for us. But it's very weird and uncertain times, that's for sure. In terms of work, I'm so lucky that I'm able to carry on working, and I've been working from home. My work is very much IT based, so I've been able to do that. On the other side of things, you've got my wife, who's a nurse, who is literally on the front line seeing the horrors that this virus is causing, not just for the people who contract the virus, but also for people with any other sort of health condition who is being affected by the extra pressure and strain that the virus is putting onto our wonderful NHS. So she's doing an amazing job, and I couldn't be prouder of her, to be honest. So anything I can do to support her to keep doing what she's doing, then absolutely I'm going to do. Mainly what that means is staying at home. Often what that means is looking after our kids and doing a bit of the old homeschooling. What an absolute gutter that is. It's so hard. They're so disinterested, and I don't know, they're just angry at the world, and it's very difficult to get them to do anything productive, to be honest, except for stare at their screens, watching frankly rubbish YouTube videos, and a bit like this one, and playing something called Roblox, I think it is. They're obsessed with it at the moment. So yeah, they're doing way too much screen time. I need to actually, just talking about it now has reminded me, I need to sort out some restrictions on their tabs so that they can't have it for hours and hours and hours every day. I need to try and limit that a little bit, because I'm sure the amount of screen time that I'm letting, it's my fault that I'm letting them have, is not particularly healthy. But hey, it's really boring for them otherwise, isn't it? Although as maybe you've seen from a couple of the images that I put at the beginning of this video, we've got quite a big back garden, which I'm very lucky to have. You can hear road noise in the background. The reason I can afford to have a big garden is because I live right on a busy road, in fact right on two busy roads. So hey, it swings and roundabouts, isn't it? There's always a trade-off, always a compromise when it comes to getting your ideal house, and this one had the space but not necessarily the location. But hey, I'm really pleased to have the space. I'm particularly pleased to have the space because, as you've also seen and can probably see behind me, there's ample room for sheds. I've actually got 4 sheds in this garden, and a couple of them are pretty ruddy big as well. I'm so lucky in that regard. Brilliant. I've just recently painted this green one behind me with some proper metal paint, so that it can hopefully have many more years to come. I've got this lovely wisteria plant growing all the way along it and across it. I'm not responsible for that. It was here when we got here, but I'm certainly going to try and keep it going and keep it cultivated, and it's so beautiful every year when it comes out in this lovely purple colour. It's just fantastic. So yeah, it's really nice, really lucky. The reason I'm uploading this video is, well, a couple of reasons really. One is I haven't been on here for quite some time, and I just wanted to put something up to say hi to all of you guys. I've had a few messages and stuff over the last couple of months saying, you know, when are we gonna see you again? Now, ideally, I was sort of thinking, well, I'll put that off until I'm actually fishing. I'm actually at a lake and I'm doing the stuff that you guys actually want to see. But alas, that's not going to be soon, I don't think. So I figured, let's get a video up, let's have a chat to you, and let's show you something which happened just before lockdown was imposed, and that is this behind me here. It is my new and improved, brand new in fact, very noisy engine there, brand new fishing shed. It is exclusively a fishing shed. It is my man cave. The girls can't go, I mean, the girls go in this one all the time, and they've got bikes and crud in there, just toys and rubbish. Really annoying, often messy, even though I try to keep it tidy. But that one just here, nobody's allowed in that. That's my fishing shed. And just before the lockdown, I had it delivered, and I had some help from family in putting the thing up. It is a resin shed. So the previous shed that was there in that spot was a wooden one. It had rotted really quite badly, especially around the lower part, and that had allowed easy access for those dreaded rats. The rats were getting in, and they were frequently eating items of, not even items of food to be honest, sometimes bait, but often stuff that you wouldn't even think they'd want to eat, material and cloth, and chewing through boots and just whatever. They seem to eat absolutely anything. And the last straw was, just before I ordered this thing, I'd got back from a few days away with the family, and I went into the fishing shed just to check things over, as I often do, because it had a little leak and we often got water ingress in there and that kind of thing. And a hole had been chewed through the side of my food bag into one of the side pockets where I kept a load of those little tea light candles that I use for my Nash bivvy heater. And I mean, there must have been, I think there must have been 30 candles in there. Anyway, they were all gone, all eaten completely, not a trace of them left. Even the little metal casings that they come in were gone. God knows what they've done with them. Could they have eaten those? I don't know, but they were gone, and I thought, that's it, that's the last straw. These rats are driving me mad. This shed is rotten anyway, and it leaks. Let's take the plunge and let's get a new one. So the new shed just over here behind me is what I've ended up with. So I'm going to take you over there now. Let's take a closer look, and I'll show you around my new fishing shed. Well guys, here it is. Here's the side aspect of it anyway. It's resin, so effectively a plastic shed, but it felt like it was made of really good stuff. It's actually a Keter Factor 8-foot by 11-foot resin shed with an apex roof. It cost me about 900 quid, which is a heck of a lot of money on a shed. It is 8 foot by 11 foot, so it's pretty big, which is good, but still probably quite a bit more expensive than a wooden one would have been. However, the benefits are that it won't rot. The rats hopefully can't gnaw their way through the sides of it, although that has yet to be proven. And it's been up and standing for, well, a couple of months now, hasn't it? I mean, how long have we been on lockdown? However long we've been on lockdown, because it was just before, it was probably the week before lockdown started that I got this thing built. Really glad that I did, because I couldn't have done it without help. That's one thing that's for sure about these sort of kit sheds that you get, is you couldn't build it on your own. I mean, it would have been a disaster. So luckily I had help from my mum and her husband. They're very handy, very DIY handy, really helped me out with this, and helped me get this thing put up. There's Charlie the dog in the background over there, you can see. Yeah, so here it is, the Keter Factor 8 foot by 11 foot resin shed. I'm going to take you around the front now, or I suppose if this is the side aspect, then over there is the front aspect where the dog is. Let's take you around the front, show you what I've done around there, and then talk to you a little bit more about the build and that kind of thing. Alright, well here she is. Here's the front. Big double doors here, which I really like the idea of. I can open those out quite nicely to get my gear in and out. The doors actually face directly towards my side gate, which is just behind the camera here, allowing me really easy access from shed through gate to car, basically, and I can bring my car up right up to that gate. So that's absolutely fab. You can see it's got a pitched roof. up here. I think they call it an apex roof or something like that, which I really wanted, obviously, to allow the rain to pour away. Here in the UK, you know, we get a heck of a lot of rain. We've had a heck of a lot of rain, although thankfully last few weeks it's been really quite lovely on the weather front, which is nice. You can see I've got a security light out the front of it here, and on the doors themselves I do have a nice heavy duty padlock which I put on there as well. So despite the thing being plastic, it does seem to be a really sturdy piece of kit. In terms of the build, it came as a great big flat pack, basically, in a couple of boxes. I had to extend the concrete base. I had a concrete base there already from the wooden shed, but I had to extend it a further foot because the footprint of this shed is just a foot longer than the old one was. So a lot of mixing concrete and pouring and that kind of thing to make that happen. It's quite a deep trench that I had there. But yeah, it worked out, dried nicely, and then the build went quite smoothly. This flat pack was really great, fab, easy to put together. In terms of bits bolting together, there wasn't lots of that. The bits, if you like, were all quite big. They were obviously all cast in quite big size shapes, so there weren't loads of small pieces to put together. That said, the actual putting it up was tricky, mainly because we had a bit of wind on the day, a bit of gusty wind on the day, and as you can imagine, until all of the sides and the roof supports are in place, the whole thing is very kind of flexible. They got a little bit hairy in places, but we did get there in the end. I'll show you a little walk around and just point out some of the key points of the build. Just in case any of you guys are interested, or you're thinking about getting a new shed or something like that. I'll show you this one. Certainly so far, I would say I recommend it. There are pros and cons, for sure, of having a plastic or resin shed. I'll talk about those in just a sec, but let me show you around and talk you through the build. Alright, so really and truly I wanted to use the GoPro for this bit on my head, but I took the GoPro out of its bag just a minute ago and it had completely discharged, I suppose. It had no charge anyway. So it's plugged in, charging up now, which means I can't use it, basically. So I'm just holding on to my mobile phone, so sorry if it's a little bit shaky as we go. I wanted to show you, talk you through a little bit of the build. The key part of the build were these corner pieces, from here all the way round to here is one piece of the puzzle, if you like, and it goes all the way from the top of the shed right down to the bottom of the shed there. So it's quite large corner pieces. That was stage one, was get the corner pieces in, and then these panels: one, a support beam; two, a support beam; three, a support beam; four, and then another corner piece, is basically how it went. I'll just show you around the corner here. Not much space between my two sheds. I've got my big metal one here and my new plastic one here, but that was the idea. It was corner piece, then the panels, then another corner piece, then the panels, then the third corner piece, panels, fourth corner piece, and then the doors, kind of thing. And then some metal support beams went in for the roof structure. And if I just hold this up a little bit, you might be able to see the roof up there. Basically, no idea if that came out on the camera or not. Basically, the roof comprises of large flat panels of really robust plastic that slot ingeniously into these little sort of cut out grooves in the whole support beam structure of the roof, in such a way that there's kind of integral guttering. There's sort of rain gutters within the moulded supports, which run all the way down and into this sort of trunking here. And if I show you up close, this trunking has got little holes in here for drainage, and that is kind of the sort of guttering equivalent on this thing. And I've seen it in action. I mean, obviously I couldn't resist coming out here and standing in the pouring rain to watch it working. But yeah, sure enough, out of these little holes here comes the rainwater that's running off the top. most of it just skims off over the top, but a bit coming out of those as well. So yeah, obviously a really clever design. And as you can see, it comes with a little window just on one of the panels. So I had that one pointing out this way so that it gets a little bit of light through there. Doesn't let a huge amount of light in, to be honest, but that's not the end of the story, because on the top, on the roof, I don't know if I can just hold that up again, you might be able to see. Well, if you can see or not, I don't know, but there's a skylight. A sort of clear plastic support beam that goes all the way from one end to the other of the shed, and it does let in a decent amount of light, which is really cool. So next thing, enough yabbering on about the outside of it, let me show you the inside and let you know how I've got it set up, ready for when ultimately this blinking lockdown is lifted, the world can go back to a little bit of normality, God willing, and you and I can get back out fishing. Well, here we are, the new shed from the inside. Well, I'm really pleased with it. It's ridiculous how excited I get over a shed. But man, I really love this thing. It's kind of the ultimate man cave, for me anyway, because it's all about fishing. There's nothing in here that's not fishing related. So I'll give you a little guided tour of this 8-foot by 11-foot space, such as it is, and let you know how I've got it set up. The idea being that all of my stuff is within easy reach, is well organised, so that when that tiny glimmer of opportunity comes, I can grab exactly what I need, whack it in the car and get myself down to a lake, wherever that may be. Alright, so weird angle, but something I wanted to show you to start with. Behind me, here across the roof supports and down onto one wall and more over on the other wall here, is I've got electrics in here, I've got power. So I've got a double socket here. I've got a light in the middle of the shed, and over on the far side there, just out of shot, is the actual light switch itself. Now, I said earlier about pros and cons, wooden versus plastic sheds, and this is definitely a drawback of having the plastic shed. And that is, you haven't got a lot of wood to screw stuff into. In fact, you haven't got any wood to screw stuff into. Hence, all of the cables and stuff back here, which come in just via the end of the shed there, quite up high, kind of parallel to where the wires exit the big metal shed, which is next to it, and then come across here. What I've got here is the wiring cable tied to the actual support structure of the roof of the shed, which works fine. It's just, I suppose, it's just a little bit unsightly, isn't it? It's not quite as neat and tidy as I would perhaps like, but it works. They're out of the way, they're not going to snag on anything, and even if they did, they're cable tied in place, so they don't really move, which gives me power in here, which is great. In terms of the socket back here, which I'm just pointing at, hopefully you can see that, that is screwed into the side of the shed itself, as if it were a wooden shed. However, I had to be very careful about where I positioned those screws, because I didn't want to screw anything directly into any of those large panels that form up the walls of the shed, because they're although they're very tough, very strong and very rigid, they're actually quite thin, and anything I put in there was likely to pop out of the other side, or just perhaps be a little bit weak in terms of how it holds on to that particular material. So instead, I've been very careful with things like the double socket here and the light switch over there, that I've screwed those into one of the pillar supports which sit in between each of the panels, because they're made of very thick plastic indeed. Certainly enough to get a screw in. I'm only using little tiny screws in there, but it works, holds everything in place, and it allows me to have power in here, which is pretty important, especially as we get towards winter, which I'm sort of guessing is when we might be able to get out fishing again. It doesn't bother me fishing through the winter. You know, I had a pretty hard winter just this last winter gone, but it doesn't bother me fishing in the winter. In fact, I really enjoy it. I really enjoy fishing anytime. Yeah, let me just move the camera ever so slightly, sort of wish I had the GoPro now, and flick on the light switch so that you can see let there be light. Brilliant. Okay, so who wants to see a man flicking on a light switch and a light bulb coming on for real quality entertainment on a YouTube video? You guys do. Here we go. Here's a switch. Bing! Light. Fantastic. Yeah, that's what it's all about for me. It means I can get out here after a session, before a session, at night after the kids are in bed, and get some stuff sorted out. Let me just move that camera down just a little bit. Oh, because behind me I also got this stuff when I bought the shed. I sort of went for it. I just thought, let's just get it done and do it properly. So I've got a large corner unit of shelving here, and next to it a large sort of straight rectangular shelving unit, so that I can keep everything up off the floor, out from under my feet, and neat and tidy, and also all within easy reach too. I got these things, these metal sort of slot together shelving units, such as they are, from eBay. If you just search like garage shelving on Amazon or eBay, there's loads of these things out there, and they're not expensive. I think it was 30 odd quid for the large corner unit, and 20 quid for the smaller unit here. They're rated to take an incredible amount of weight. I don't think they could hold the sorts of weight that they claim to, but certainly they're robust enough and strong enough for my heavy fishing gear anyway. So yeah, this is what I've got set up here. Not only that, I've also got my own little workstation back here. So it's a little tiny desk, I suppose you'd call it. Me and my wife got that in the first flat that we ever lived in when we first moved in together. We got this little flat. The place was absolutely tiny, and that was the best we could do for a dining table. I mean, literally just room for 2 plates, pretty much. And it came with these 2 stools, like fold-up stools. Obviously, I only need one in here because this is a solitary man cave, and it gives me somewhere to sit, do a bit of rig tying, prep a little bit of bait. And will mean that I don't necessarily have to do it in the kitchen anymore, which I know annoys the long-suffering wife. So hopefully I can do stuff like that out here and avoid her wrath. So I'm going to take you a little bit closer and talk you through what I've got on the shelves. It might be that in all the time I've been wittering on here, my GoPro has finished charging, so I might be able to put the head cam on and do a little bit from there. Because it's just easier for me to have both hands free to show you around. Alright everyone, well the GoPro is not fully charged, it's just about halfway there, but hopefully that's enough for what I've got to show you here. So I don't know if you can see this, I'm trying to sort of tilt my head backwards, but up at the very top of my shelving units here, I've got a large holdall that I very rarely use, but if I'm on slightly longer sessions I would bring that along, as well as my usual big kit bag, and it's really handy for holding extra clothing and food and stuff like that. At the moment I'm just using it to store a load of old boxes that reels came in and things like that. Why do I store boxes? It's because if I come to flog them at some point, they're a little bit more valuable if they've got their boxes, if I want to upgrade or something like that. Just bits and pieces up here, basically stuff that I rarely use but may have need to. There's sort of spares of spare PVA stuff and whatnot in this one as well. Down on the second shelf here, I've got a huge, absolutely huge tub of what I think are dog biscuits that Charlie the dog didn't like. So if I ever did a bit of floater fishing, I think these would be just the ticket. However, it's something which I really haven't done a lot of at all. And when I was younger, I think I tried a bit of floater fishing, but haven't done it for many, many years. Really, probably something I should try and get back into when I get a chance to go fishing in the good weather, as I have seen people really doing well on that technique. Over here, I've got a big tub of bait stuff. This is not boilies. This is everything other than boilies, I suppose. Really, it's powders, it's stick mixes, it's ground bait, it's pellets, so all of that kind of stuff is in this box. Over here I've bolted a couple of brackets on here to hang up my my spod rod, which is a 10-foot 4.5 pound test curve H-gun dwarf from Nash. Does a really good job as a spod rod, but spodding is something actually I very rarely do. In fact, I don't think you've ever seen me try a bit of spodding. I'm not very good at it, that's for sure. So I kind of hang the spod rod and the spod reel up here just in case I should need them, but I generally don't take them with me. And you've seen the lakes that I fish on. They're not massive great pits. You know, I can get the bait to where I want it to be via catapult most of the time, but you never know. If my tactics change and I want to try a bit of spodding, I've got that there as well. This shelf here has got my bait buckets on. In fact, I'm in the market for some new bait buckets actually, because this seal around the tops of these is starting to get a little bit weak. I don't think they're as airtight as they used to be, so I'm looking at new buckets at the moment, considering what I might want to get there. Yeah. Oh, siren in the background, apologies for the noise, just wait for that to fade away. Okay, so coming down to the next shelf down. By the way, my daughter helped me with labelling the shelves here. So bait barrels, she's put both words spelled wrong. Classic Erin. Really funny. Bless that girl. Love her to bits. Down here, my food and water shelf. Yeah, my food bag here. This is the one that the rats chewed a hole through the side of. Still usable, I think, but obviously won't be able to put anything particularly edible in that side pouch because it's got a hole in it now, which I've expertly repaired with sellotape, which is going to last all of 10 seconds in the bad weather. I've got some spare gas canisters here. Tend to keep a stock of gas canisters. I think there's six. There's 6 in there, so plenty to keep me going. Gas canisters actually last quite a long time. Got my water carriers here. I've got a large one actually. I've got a 10-litre water carrier and a 5-litre water carrier. I usually only ever use the 5-litre one, but for those longer sessions, if I ever get a longer session, I'll be using the 10-litre one over there. Over here I've got boilies. All of my boilies are in there. I think I've got about 10 kilos of boilies in there at the moment, ready and raring to go for when hopefully we can get out and do a bit of fishing again. Here next to the little workstation that I've got here, I'm just keeping rig wallets just so that I can, you know, easily to hand if I want to sharpen up a rig, tie up a rig or something like that. I've got my little hook sharpener there as well, something which I'm going to use in just a little while actually, just to check out the points of those rigs that I've got in there. They're not all brand new. Some I have actually used and might need a little polish up with the little hook sharpener. So I'm going to have a look through those in just a little bit. Down on the next shelf, I've got my rucksack for those short sessions. It's all kitted out with my bank sticks on one side there. It's kind of a grab and go kind of shelf, this one. I think I've got everything I need in there for a short session. If I just wanted to quickly hop down onto one of the lakes and have a quick go at catching something, then this is where I'd come to. Over here I've got my big bag, which comes with me most of the time, and it's got absolutely everything in it that I could need, but it's easy for me to access there. The shelf is just about wide enough to take it, and you need to sort of put it in at a bit of an angle and then twist it, but it fits there quite snugly. And then down on the bottom shelf there is my mucky stuff. It's my boots, it's my spare wheels for my barrow, it's my very muddy bag which has got my unhooking cradle in. I also keep my my rod pod bag in there as well. Over here, as I said, I've got my little desk area which I'm really chuffed about. Got some towels there for taking with me. Over here, these shelves actually come with the shed, a couple of nice sturdy shelves there, and this lower one I'm just using for all my various hook baits, glugs, potions, pots and that kind of thing, really. So at some point I'll have a little go through that and tidy up a bit, but at the moment it's all just higgledy-piggledy there. But I know what's there, so you know, if I need something I know where I can go to grab it, which is really good. Now unfortunately I've had to put some stuff on the floor, so down here I've got my bivvy and my overwrap for my bivvy there. Pretty much middle of the shed on this side here, I've got lent up against the side my my bed chair. I've screwed some again into these support pillars in between the panels. I've screwed some hooks, so I've got some hooks there holding my my waterproof coats. I've got a hook here holding my waterproof trousers and my waders. Very rarely use waders, but I got them when I was fishing a very exclusive little lake that really was very difficult to access the water any other way. but no longer a member there. If I'm honest, I found it too hard. I wasn't ready for it, not cut out for it. Just didn't have the skills I think needed to fish in that kind of venue. It was a very weedy water, and I'm just not confident doing that yet. It's definitely something I want to add into my armoury, because I know there's some great fish to be had from weedy waters, but at the moment I'm just not ready. So I'll think about getting those waders out again another time in the future, but really they're probably just going to hang there for a while for now. Over in the corner here, up against the sort of strongest part of the shed itself, which is the corners, I've lent up my brolly bag, rod bag number 1, rod bag number 2. You very rarely see rod bag number 1 out on the bank. It's my float fishing stuff really, and that's something which I don't do enough of. I think I'm just so obsessed with catching carp using my carp rods that if I get a chance to go fishing, that's what I want to be doing. But I do love a bit of float fishing too, so hopefully that's something you'll see a little bit of in the future, perhaps. Just turning myself around to the other corner near the front where the doors are, and that's where I've got my barrow right at the front, nice and easy to grab and go, and I've got a chair there which I keep as well. There's another hook here holding another pair of waterproof trousers, also covered in mud from my rather grim winter fishing. So if I take a step back and look up a bit, that's the shed. Really happy with it, really happy with it, and I can't wait to actually use some of this stuff to do a bit of proper fishing. Absolute magic. All right guys, well that was the little tour of the shed. Thanks so much for joining me. As I've said about 20 times, I'm really pleased with it, chuffed to bits with it. Glad I've done it, and now I know I'm ready for when, everything crossed, we can get out safely fishing again. And hopefully catching some big ones. Something I wanted to mention to you guys is I don't actually watch a heck of a lot of content online about fishing. I've been watching a bit more lately because I've been cooped up in the house and desperately thinking about carp angling the whole time. So I've watched a few things. And one of the things I watched just today actually was the Eurobanks, the latest Eurobanks with Alan Blair and Ollie Davis from Nash. And I know it's not everyone's cup of tea, you know, the vans and the drum and bass music and all of that. And, you know, it's not mine really. I like peaceful, quiet, solitude and all of that kind of stuff. But one thing that really stuck out to me during that film, which I actually thought was a really good film from those guys, I really enjoyed it, was the effort thing. Effort equals reward, doesn't it? And one of the things that those guys do is put in a hell of a lot of effort into catching their fish, and it pays off in the end. They did really well, caught some lovely fish. It's just incredible, but they did have to work for it, like really work for it, and put up with the lows before they got to the highs. And you know, and I suppose that's something that I need to bear in mind, because I can get a bit sort of like gutted and down when I blank and that kind of thing. But even those guys who are obviously really good, top of their game, you know, they blank too. It happens, doesn't it? That's part of carp fishing. You kind of have to just accept that. So that's something that I take away from it. The other thing that I take away from it is just the camaraderie and the social element of carp fishing, and going with friends, being with friends, spending time with friends and that kind of thing. It's something which I don't think I do enough of. I'm quite selfish when it comes to my fishing, and often I just want to fish alone. But hopefully when we do get back out there, one of the things that I will do is fish with friends a little bit more, because it's so nice to see those guys sharing in each other's success and enjoying a good time and that kind of thing. So yeah, I think I'll do a little bit of that, perhaps more so than I would have done had it not been for this lockdown, you know, making me think about it a bit more, and thinking about, you know, what's important in well, I was going to say what's important in life. This isn't a video about what life is about. That's mad. But you know, what is important in life is not just having the experiences, but it's sharing the experiences. I share the experiences with you guys, which I really enjoy doing. I really do. But you know, it'd be nice to share the experiences with people live as well. So I think that's something I'll do a little bit of when we get back out of isolation. One of the things that I wanted to show you guys as well was this. I keep a photo album of fish that I've caught, not just carp, although it is mainly carp in here, to be honest. It's something that I really like. I like to have an actual copy of a photograph. Of course, I've got digital copies of stuff all over the place on SD cards and hard drives and that kind of thing, but you can't quite beat having an actual copy of a photograph here. So what I've done is grab myself a cup of tea, of course. Oh, it's still pretty hot actually, and I just thought I'd flick through the first couple of pages maybe and talk to you briefly about the fish there and the story that goes behind it, just as something to pass the time whilst we're all cooped up at home on this lockdown. And perhaps I'll just look at a couple of fish today and then look at some more in another video or something like that. So I'm going to turn the camera around, show you inside the photo album, and let's have a little chat before I wrap this video up. Alright, here we go. So, to start with, I'm going back to 2006. Oh, what is that now? 14 years ago? 14 years ago. I don't know if you guys can see this, but I'm holding a pretty big linear carp there. It's a 26.5 pound linear mirror, which I caught from a place near where I used to live, in Lymington, right down on the south coast. I don't live there anymore, but I used to. And this lake was right in the middle of some farmers' fields, like quite a few fields, if you like, all the way around this. The only place to park to get to the lake was a little tea rooms. You had to park in this tea rooms, and you weren't allowed to take your car beyond this point. There was no real access for a barrow, although back then I didn't have a barrow. I didn't even know there was such a thing as a fishing barrow back then, I don't think. So I used to have to lug all of my gear, what seemed like miles, it probably was miles, across these fields, over little stiles and down little pathways, through a field which had a bull in it, which was always a little bit hairy. All the way to the lake. But when you got there, it was the paradise of carp fishing lakes. Absolutely amazing place, surrounded by trees. It felt closed off from the world, and swimming around in there like submarines, especially during the warm sunny weather, you could see them, were lots and lots of very large carp. And that really that's really, back then, that's really when my sort of passion for carp angling got going, and when I really sort of started targeting carp and thinking that's something that I really want to catch. And I didn't know anything about it. I didn't read the magazines, I didn't know the tactics, I didn't know anyone who did it, but I tried everything to tempt one of these carp out, and eventually using what, you know, a rig that you would never think would these days would do the job, caught this 26.5 pound carp right from the very edge of an island, right in an undercut sort of bush. It was quite a small, intimate lake, so there was no real long range casting, but this was about as long range as a cast got. I remember the cast actually. Back then I didn't know about clipping up. I'm not even sure I had clips on my reels, but I knew where I wanted to get that bait, and I cast it, and it landed just where I wanted to. I thought, oh, that's perfect, that's great. And it sat there all day. I was there from sort of early in the morning until I was just getting ready to pack up for about 4 p.m. and this rod just absolutely melted off. I didn't have any bite alarms there back then. I had a little plastic bobbin on a piece of fishing line, which was my indication of a bite. That cracked up into the bottom of the rod, and it was away, and it was taking line. At the rig end, I was using a running ledger bomb, which was only about an ounce, and tied directly to the main line. I had a size, I think it was a size 10, yeah, size 10 hook, which I'd sort of manually tied a little hair to, also made from mono fishing line, and I'd put on there a little tutti frutti boilie, and that's what had done the business and caught me that fish in the end. Didn't even put any free baits around it then. Didn't really know a lot about baiting, and you know, and that could sometimes spur a bite on. I believe that was just a single bait, and it caught me that whopping great fish, which was absolutely fantastic. Actually, I sent it into the Angling Times, and I think this is the picture from the Angling Times of me holding the fish, so it's not the best quality picture in the world, but my God, was I happy with that capture. So that's it from me, guys. Thanks for joining me in the shed. Appreciate you sticking with me, you know, during this dry spell of no fishing. You know, as soon as we're able to fish again, I'll be back posting proper fishing videos, and hopefully you'll be able to see me catching some fish for you guys. And I wish the same for you too. You know, as soon as we're able to and it's safe to do so, then we'll get back out there and hopefully we'll catch some fish. Been nice to make this quick video. Hopefully we'll be able to catch up again soon, and perhaps we'll talk a little bit more about some of these photos, and maybe have a look at some rigs and baits and stuff, just in preparation for when we can get fishing again. I'm not going to do loads of it. I appreciate that this is not everyone's cup of tea, and you know, a lot of people would find this just boring beyond belief. But yeah, I'll do a couple maybe until we can get back out there and get fishing again. Until then, I'll just say stay safe. Follow the rules, and God willing, we'll come through this stronger out the other side. But until then, thanks for watching, and hopefully I'll see you guys again soon.